C5 Insight is a Microsoft partner that plans, builds, and supports solutions in Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform. Contact us to modernize your business today.
So welcome everybody to our part 2 of our 8-part series on Copilot for Sales. Last week we talked about email efficiency, and watch, we'll be getting some YouTube videos and stuff like that published on that if you happen to miss it. This week we're going to talk about preparing for meetings, and next week we're going to be talking about getting the most out of meetings using Copilot for Sales. So our format is very efficient. We have 15 minutes of content that we're going to move through very swiftly on this topic today. If you can stick around, we're going to have another 10 to 30 minutes of roundtable discussion where you can ask questions as well. But if you only got the 15 minutes, hang on to your hats because I'm going to move through this content pretty quickly to try to get us through everything. So as we get into this, a couple of background things that probably will make sense to everybody in this meeting. First of all, it is really hard for salespeople to be sufficiently prepared for their meetings, right? As someone who has sales and business development as part of my responsibilities and sales management as part of mine, I can tell you I don't go into every meeting as prepared as I should be, right? The simple reality is sometimes you don't have time to do as much as you'd like to do, even though I probably tend to be someone who is fairly prepared. And part of the reason for that is preparation takes time. It's not just something that happens immediately. So not only are sellers unprepared, but it's often very challenging to have time to fully prepare for a meeting, particularly some meetings where there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered to make that happen. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How does Copilot help sellers to be prepared and be more completely prepared for their meetings using all the tools available to folks in a fraction of the time it would typically take? So I'm going to start before we start with the meeting. I'm going to start with the email. And the reason I'm going to start with an email is usually a meeting starts with an email, and Copilot gets engaged with us at that level. So I'm not going to talk about creating the emails. We talked about that last week, but I'm going to talk about tracking the emails and talk about gathering information from the emails, like the contacts that are going to be in meetings with us. Let's take a look at how that works in Copilot.
Today, I received an email from Allie Jameson at Contoso. I'll open that email, then click the apps icon above the email and choose to open Copilot for Sales. Since I regularly use Copilot for Sales, I'll also click the push pin to automatically have Copilot open for all of my emails. I can see that Allie isn't in our CRM yet, but her other coworkers in the email are. Let's add Allie to CRM. As you can see, Copilot has looked at Allie's signature line to fill in as much information on the new contact form as possible. I'll fill in the company name and save the record. I'm also going to save the email to CRM, and I'll attach it to the opportunity I've already opened for the Contoso account.
So in that 50 seconds, I was able to go in and create an entirely new contact inside of Dynamics CRM in this case. It could also be Salesforce.com, and get the meeting tracked so it's ready for when the meeting begins in a little while, or ready for me to help start preparing for the meeting. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I've tracked the meeting. So when I create a meeting, I always want to track it. You can see the bullet point there is saving the meeting to CRM, whatever your CRM system is, via Copilot. That is fuel for Copilot. That's knowledge, that's data that Copilot's going to use to help you get the most out of preparing for and being present in the meeting. So let's take a quick look at how we can put the meeting in there and how we can begin to create an agenda for that meeting that we can add to the meeting itself.
Looking through my email list and come to this email from Allie Jameson from Contoso. This looks like a great opportunity to bring a lot of value to a prospect and engage directly with some decision makers. So I'll start by scheduling a meeting using the Reply with Meeting feature built right into Outlook. And I'll select a time and then open it in Copilot. I can see that all of the participants in the meeting are already in CRM, but if they weren't, I could add them from here just like I could from an email message. I always make sure to add the meeting to CRM using Copilot. There's already an opportunity in CRM for this record, so it's easy to save it to that. This puts all the important information into CRM. Data like this makes Copilot even more helpful. And it sets me up to run a more productive meeting when the time comes using Copilot. While I'm here, I see that Allie Jameson is probably the decision maker on this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the opportunity record right here in Outlook to make that change. When sending a meeting invitation, it's a good idea to include a note and to suggest an agenda to include within the meeting body. There are a lot of places I can ask Copilot to help me with this. I'm going to go to my office.com homepage in this case and click on the Copilot logo. This and Teams chat are great places for general chats with Copilot. I'm going to ask it to create a description field for the meeting. Notice that I can use the / to open a searchable browser to find files, emails, meetings, and more. I'll enter Contoso to find the email I'm looking for. And Copilot builds my meeting description for me. Notice that this chat gets added to the list of Copilot chats, so I can reference it in the future, or I can delete it if I prefer. Now I'll just use the copy button and paste it into the meeting and send off the meeting invitation.
All right, so not only did Copilot get the meeting tracked, I was able to update information directly in my CRM solution without leaving Outlook at all, but I even created the agenda without having to think through all the details and type it up myself. Super useful stuff to save you some time in the agenda creation side. But meeting preparation is a lot more than an agenda. It has to do with research around who is the customer, what is the opportunity, who are the different contacts there. So let's look at 3 different ways you can prepare for a meeting. You may not use all of them. There are a lot of different ways to do this depending on your context. The first way I'm going to show you is within the Dynamics 365 sales application itself. You can actually interact with Copilot right there to do a bunch of things. So let's take a look at how we can learn more about the customer and their situation within Dynamics 365.
I'm preparing for my meeting with Contoso that's coming up this afternoon. I used to have to navigate to multiple records in CRM to do this. Now I navigate to the record that the meeting is regarding. In this case, the opportunity with Contoso. When I arrive on the record, Copilot automatically generates a summary of the opportunity for me. I can see the latest changes and a summary of the fields on the opportunity. And I can copy this information with a click if I want to add it to an overall summary. I can also work with Copilot to get ready for my meeting. Copilot has already given me a suggested prompt to prepare me for upcoming appointments. So let's start with that. I'll hover over the meeting I want and click Prepare. And it gives me a nice summary based on information gathered in emails, meetings, and CRM to help me be ready for the meeting. I can dig a little deeper and ask some more questions. Let's get the latest news about Contoso. Here I can see what public news sources have reported about Contoso or whatever account record I'm on recently. I can click these to open them to dive deeper.
Now, not in that video because it's so recently released, I didn't have time to put it in there. You can also have it tell you about the products that they might be interested in and dig into product information, both in Dynamics as well as into places like SharePoint and Teams and other documents related to the customer. So a lot of research you can do about the customer directly within Dynamics 365. You can also prepare for your meeting in Teams, where you have access to still more information that you might want to look into. Let's take a look at how that works.
Every morning, I like to have a routine of going through all of my scheduled meetings to be sure I'm prepared for each one. Today, I know I have a meeting with Allie Jameson and several of her coworkers from Contoso. I already happen to be here in Teams chat, and I want to be prepared for this meeting. Before I get started, I'm going to make sure that Teams chat will pull in information from the web and from Dynamics 365. So I'll start by learning a bit about Contoso. Notice that this has pulled in information from our own internal company information, as well as information from the web. And I can click on these references to open websites, SharePoint pages, emails, and more to see where the information comes from. Next, let's learn about who will be involved in the meeting. Notice that Copilot has suggested some additional things I may want to ask about. Knowing the benefits of Copilot for Sales could help me be on top of the meeting. So let's see those benefits. Notice again that it's bringing information together from within our company, coming through SharePoint documents, Dynamics, and other resources, and from the web to present this information. Okay, let's ask one more question. At C5 Insight, we have an offering called a Luck 365 plan to help provide support, administration, adoption, and planning. So I'm going to ask Copilot to give me a list of benefits for how this service offering may be helpful to Contoso. Great, I've assembled a lot of information that might help me with this meeting. From here, I can copy these and paste them into Word or OneNote or some other location to make sure I've got all of this information at my fingertips to have the most productive possible meeting.
Okay, and one more place you can go working with Copilot to prepare for a meeting. Again, you may not always use all three, but there's some incredibly powerful integration being introduced, still in preview, with Microsoft Word that brings the ability to draft a Word document together with Copilot, together with Dynamics, together with other documents you might have stored across Microsoft 365. Let's see how I can use that to prepare for this meeting with Contoso.
My meeting this afternoon with Contoso is an important one. I need to not only have a full summary of the client relationship, but I also need to be sure I'm ready to deliver the best possible pitch for their business. And I want all of this in a meeting document I can share with the team so we're all on the same page, literally. I'll start by going to Microsoft Word on the web and click the Copilot link. And I'm going to ask a question in plain English. Help me prep for the pitch meeting with. Now I want to find the meeting record from my CRM system. I can either click the reference your content button, or I can just hit the slash bar, which I'll do now. I'll select the sales meetings option and then click the meeting I want to prepare for. Now I want to go one step further. So I'm going to add to my conversation with Copilot based on, this time I'll click the reference your content button. I can start typing and all of my content will be searched. I'll select this first document and click generate. In a few minutes, Copilot has drafted a comprehensive document to help me be fully prepared for the meeting. As the owner of the relationship with Contoso, I can update this document to be sure it's complete and contains accurate information, and then share it to the rest of my selling team.
Okay, so another exciting piece of Copilot just for preparing for meetings overall. By combining those two things together, you can have a really comprehensive view of the customer, of the opportunity, of the meeting. And remember, Copilot's not always perfect, so you want to read everything before you accept it. But you can also use the Word, in my world, as the centerpiece for that, and then go to the other places to engage with Copilot, grabbing other bits and pieces of information and pasting that into Word if you want to have a single sort of dossier to be ready for the meeting. Quick summary. Remember, you start by saving the meeting from Outlook into Copilot. Almost everywhere I went to engage with Copilot, it basically said, where's that meeting? Well, it's only going to know where that meeting is if I track that into Copilot. So make sure you do that. And then you have these other three options we talked about how to dive even deeper. And our pro tip at the very bottom of that is Word can be your dossier, copy and paste from Dynamic Sales and from Teams into Word to create that one central clearinghouse of all your information. All right, that's it for our content this week. I'm going to turn it back over to Haley.
Thanks, Jeff. That was an amazing combination of CRM and productivity apps in order to prep for a meeting in a very short period of time. As a quick reminder, we schedule these presentations for 15 minutes because that's how long the core content lasts, but there is an extended 30-minute roundtable up next that we really encourage you to participate in.
Struggling to leverage Microsoft Enterprise solutions? At C5 Insight, we understand the intersection between technology, business, and people. Contact us to learn more.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for the 15-minute kind of learning bite session. Now we're going to move into our roundtable with Jordan, Prachi, Asta, and Jeff. So if you have questions throughout the time right now, you can add them in the Q&A area above your bar in Teams. We're going to start by chatting about what I've talked about today in terms of meeting prep with Copilot for Sales, and we'll be monitoring the Q&A section during that time. So one of the questions that I had, Jeff, which is kind of simple off the start here, is how to open that sidecar for Copilot for Sales in your video.
I think Prachi even has a demo environment all set up, so maybe she can not only talk about it, but show us that.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can show you the sidecar experience, not only in Outlook, but also in Dynamics CRM. Let me just start sharing my screen. And I just want to confirm you all can see my screen.
You can see it.
Awesome. So one, in Outlook, when we're in our emails and our day-to-day, you can actually pin Copilot for Sales, and it should show up as the apps you have in the side. So you can pin this to always be as your sidecar experience, and it's very dynamic. So as you go through each email, your Copilot for Sales stays on the sidecar. Now let's actually pivot into Dynamics CRM. So when you're in Dynamics, you can actually select this Copilot button on the side. It should pop here. So you have this Copilot with you wherever you are in the CRM. And as Jeff showed you, you can ask questions. Hey, what does my pipeline look like? You can ask it to summarize opportunities for you. And some personal favorites, being able to do account research directly in CRM. I know me personally, anytime I go into the browser, I see some news articles and I get sidetracked. So again, making sure everyone stays efficient. And some other things, you can summarize leads and even pull relevant LinkedIn Sales Navigator profiles in here as well. So this is how you get the Copilot sidecar experience in Dynamics CRM and in Outlook. I hope that answers your question, Haley.
Yeah. A follow-up question to that is, what's the difference between the sidecar experience and the Copilot option in the left-hand navigation area?
Yeah, it's actually, they're just different landing pages. So the one here in Dynamics CRM and Outlook, it's your Copilot for Sales in the side, right-hand side. And then what Jeff had showed you on the left-hand side was when you have Copilot in Teams and you can chat with it. And Jeff, if you'd like to add more there.
Sure. Yeah, and I think there's also, and it's not even in this demo account that Prachi is using, but in Dynamics, on the left-hand navigation, it's starting to appear with Copilot there, right up near where you click your dashboards, your sales accelerator. There's a link for Copilot there. And really, that's the same thing as the sidecar in Dynamics. It's just kind of a full screen access to Copilot. But if you actually ask a question in the sidecar and then later go open the full screen experience, you'll see that history there as well. So you can ask your questions wherever you want to. The nice thing with the sidecar is it's aware of the context of where you are in Dynamics when you ask the question. So it'll go, oh, you're on this opportunity, you're on this account. So I'm automatically going to reference what you're looking at now to try to answer your question without you having to do that. Whereas the full navigation experience, you'll have to use the slash button or some of the other tools to tell it which record you're talking about.
And I want to add in as well with just kind of the location of some of these different Copilot for Sales buttons and features that you're going to see. If you were here last week, you probably saw some of the similar ones inside of Outlook. Just be careful when you are going through Outlook. You might see two different Copilot buttons. So a lot of what we are looking at today, and when you want to be pulling in that CRM data, you're going to look at where Jeff and Prachi were highlighting, where it's specifically Copilot for Sales features that you're going to be pulling up. But if you're inside of Outlook, you might see a button that just says Copilot and gives you some drafting and coaching features within there that we did cover previously, but just making that distinction. So if you go to click into your Outlook and you're only seeing drafting or coaching, you might just want to look for the for sales feature specifically in order to find what we were going over today.
Great.
We just had a question come in from Michael. Does Copilot for Sales and Copilot for Office require two different licenses?
I can take this one because I get this question so often from my customers, and that's a great question. Actually, so Copilot for Microsoft 365 applications like Word, PowerPoint, Teams, and Outlook is included in the Copilot for Sales license. So you get all the power of Microsoft 365 Copilot, further augmented with seamless CRM connectivity as well, where you can surface CRM insights in all of these productivity tools. So Copilot for Sales includes that license for Microsoft 365 Copilot.
You can kind of think of it as an umbrella. We're actually working with some clients now on, pardon the double expression here, but piloting Copilot. And so they're working with different workloads, right? So they've got some users who are Dynamics users. So they've acquired the Copilot for Sales product, basically. And that product includes both all the Copilot for Sales functionality plus all the Microsoft 365 Copilot functionality. So everything is kind of covered under that one license. But they've got some other folks who are more operations and don't need to look at Dynamics data per se, and they're just using the Microsoft 365 Copilot license because they don't need all the connectivity to Dynamics. They don't need to access the application inside of Dynamics. They just need all the desktop apps access. So different contexts, different users have access to different licenses. But Copilot for Sales it gives you all the licenses in one. So you only need to buy one product for Copilot for your sellers to give them access to everything that they need, just like Prachi said.
So to clarify, Copilot for Sales doesn't require CRM connectivity, or CRM is included with Copilot for Sales on top of the productivity apps. Is there a Copilot that is only for productivity? Would that be like Microsoft 365 Copilot?
Correct, yes. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. So there is Copilot for Microsoft 365, and it's kind of in the name there. It's really just focusing on the productivity suite that Microsoft 365 is. And then Copilot for Sales can be thought of as an add-on to that. So if you're buying Copilot for Sales, you're going to get Sales and everything below it. Or if you already have Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can look at the add-on of Sales, or even some other Copilots like Copilot for Service and some different ones that are available that can just be stacked on top of the Microsoft 365 features that you're already using.
That's a helpful way to look at it. Okay, so when we're looking at Copilot for Sales helping within Outlook and scheduling meetings, and we talked about email efficiency last week, can Outlook users of Copilot for Sales see other people's inboxes, emails, and meetings?
So no, they can't. They can only view what their Outlook inbox looks like, their emails, and what they're credentialed to view in CRM. So what I like about Copilot for Sales, it's again, backed by Azure grade enterprise security, but also it connects to what your CRM credentials allow them to see. So to answer the question, no, you can't see anyone else's emails or inbox or anything like that.
Okay.
And I think when thinking of Copilot too, that will extend to using it within your other applications. Even we touched on Copilot in Teams, and today and next week, a lot of that session is going to be around, now that we did the meeting prep, how do you use it during and post meeting? That when you are using Copilot in those areas as well, you're the only one seeing that Copilot questions you're asking it. So even though things like the chat and the Q&A might be a little more available to everybody else, Copilot is just going to be between you and your Copilot there to get all your questions sorted.
So, and then I'm going to geek out for a second here and go down a tangent, but when Haley asked that question, I'll be totally vulnerable here and say, I was tuned out for a moment. My mind was on other things. And I thought, thank goodness Prachi is answering that question because I'm not quite sure I heard it. But then I asked Copilot for some help. I said, what's the last question that Haley asked? And it pretty much got it word perfect here. So while Prachi was talking, I could look at the question again and kind of go, okay, now I understand the full context of this question right within the meeting. So I won't offer an answer because Prachi and Jordan both already offered awesome answers. But that's just another example of Copilot in action.
Yeah, that is a great example. Thanks for outing yourself on our behalf. Your cheat code stays within this little environment here. I think my last question is about using the Outlook app. I think for a lot of organizations, their sellers frequently forget to track their meetings. And it sounds like when you're using Copilot, this is something really important. And you want to be ready for the meeting, and Copilot needs that background in order to help you prepare. So how would you recommend organizations help change this behavior so that sellers are tracking their meetings appropriately?
I'll take a first shot at this, but the others may have another perspective, because part of this is it's change management, it's user behavior, right? So one thing that I do and that we train our clients to do is say you should have a regular weekly and daily cadence around meetings. So when you're in a seller world, oftentimes it's like, I got to set up this meeting. Boom, boom. I got to get it out there. Something just happened. I'm on the phone right now. And I'm not in the moment enough, or I don't have the time to slow down and make sure I track it and attach it to the right record and all that kind of stuff. That's where a daily and weekly cadence comes in, where you say, look, Monday morning, Sunday evening, Friday afternoon, whenever it is, like, let me look at the week ahead and make sure I've got things set up. And then again, each morning, and I do this pretty religiously every morning, let me look at what I've got going on to make sure that if I didn't track all those meetings, I make sure I go ahead and get those tracked inside of Dynamics via using Copilot as a tool to make that connection. So that's part of the learned experience for it. Now, I know Microsoft actually has some interesting new features where you can even click follow a meeting, and that will tip yourself or the meeting organizer to say, hey, when that meeting starts, remember to hit the record button, because this person, maybe they can't come and they want to make sure that that happens. So that's a tool that Microsoft's helping build into some of those things as well.
Yeah, and I'll add in, and similar to an answer I gave during our Q&A in the last session as well, that outside of building that habit, like Jeff was talking about, and just needing to kind of build that routine with a lot of this, Copilot does do a lot to bridge that gap between the behavior building and the features that it offers. So you might have even noticed it when those panels were opened up inside of Outlook, that if you are opening that on an email or a meeting that hasn't yet been saved into your CRM, one of the very first buttons it's going to prompt you with up top is, do you want to save this into Dynamics or whatever CRM you're using? So even if you yourself haven't built that habit into your cadence, Copilot's not going to let you forget it, and it's going to make sure that it's giving you the best behaviors that you should be using to interact with Copilot to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I think Jordan and Jeff gave great comprehensive answers. And with that, I'll just add, there's a lot of, features coming up in the roadmap where there'll be contextual insights. So Copilot's making it really easy for you to automatically scrape email. So let's say you get a new email from a lead. What Copilot will suggest is, hey, this, contact is not in the CRM. You can actually add and create this contact, and it'll autofill everything with the signature. So like Jordan mentioned, Copilot is making it easy to bridge that gap for you.
I feel like it continues to bridge lots of gaps. So this is just the beginning of so much more efficiency that's going to be created when you use it. Well, I haven't seen any other Q&As come through, so we are going to go ahead and wrap up today. But if you would like the slides or have additional questions that you didn't get to ask, we would love to connect with you. At C5, we help organizations modernize their digital workplaces and accelerate business results through people-centric digital transformation. So we would love to help your company do that. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.